Shalom, I'm Jody Hirsh, the Director of Judaic Education here at the Harry and Rose Samson Family Jewish Community Center, and this is my Moment of Torah. This week's Parsha is Nitzavim. So Nitzavim, what is that? How do we get the names of these Parshas anyway, and what exactly does the title of this week's Parsha mean, Nitzavim? How do we find the names for these different Parshas? Actually, the name of the Parsha in Hebrew always comes from the very first important word that we read in that week's Parsha. So, for example, the Parsha begins with Atem Nitzavim Hayom. You are standing today. Actually, the second word in this Parsha is Nitzavim, that we usually translate as standing, and that is why we give it the name, because that's the main word. Now, what exactly does Nitzavim mean? We could say that the root is Natzav. That's not actually the root, but for the purposes of what we're talking about, we'll say that. So what does Nitzav mean? Nitzavim, of course, is the plural of Nitzav. It could mean to stand. It could mean to stand up. In other words, to be perpendicular, to be upright. It could mean positioned. You are positioned. Or could mean stable. It has a feeling of stability. So this one word in Hebrew means a whole lot of different things, and therefore we could translate it in a number of different ways. So here's the beginning of our Parsha from Deuteronomy chapter 29, verse 9. You stand this day, all of you, before the Lord your God, your tribal heads, your elders, and your officials, all the people of Israel, to enter into the covenant of the Lord your God, which the Lord your God is concluding with you this day. I make this covenant, not with you alone, but both with those who are standing here with us this day before the Lord our God, and with those who are not with us here this day. So there are many different translations. I mean, we could say, you are standing this day. Or we could say, you are standing this day, all of you, before Hashem your God. There are a lot of ways we can translate it. And so exactly what does this Parsha mean? And what does this exactly mean? So I'm going to look at it in two different ways. Number one, you stand this day, all of you, before the Lord your God, your tribal heads and so forth. It says there are a lot of you. You know, tradition says that wandering through the desert, and of course this is part of Moses' last speech to the children of Israel before going into the promised land. The tradition says that there are 600,000 people listening to Moses here in the desert. So on the one hand, you could say he's talking to all of you, the tribal heads and so forth and so on, all of you, and we receive this Torah. But the interesting part is not that, but afterwards. Look at what it says at the end of this paragraph. It's, I make this covenant not with you alone, but both with those who are standing here with us this day before the Lord your God, and with those who are not with us here this day. So what could that possibly mean? I'm making this covenant with all of you 600,000 people who are here wandering in the desert, but I'm also making it for all of us who are not here today. So what could that possibly mean? So you have people there, and they're individuals like Moses and all those other individuals. But what this Parsha seems to be saying, that this Torah is not just for those people there wandering in the desert, but it's with everyone in future generations. It's for King David. It's for Moses Maimonides in the 12th century. It's for Isaac Mayer Wise in the 19th century in America. It's with Henrietta Zold, or David Ben-Gurion, or Golda Meir, or the Lubavitcher Rabbi. It could be with Yitzhak Perelman, or it could be with Barbara Streisand. And it could be with all of those people here in Milwaukee and at the JCC. And so, you see, it's not just the people that were there at Sinai, or that they was there listening to Moses at the very end of 40 years in the desert, that have received the Torah. It's all of us. It's all of us today, because the Torah has had an influence on us, not just as Jews, but as human beings and as society. And that's what we think about when we listen to this week's Parsha, that the Torah is the property of all of us, not just those people who received it in the desert 3,000 years ago.